trusting in life's lessons. You know, it's almost it's almost a super valuable thing in this lifetime, is to understand that every single one of us have this kind of ripple effect within ourselves. We are ultimately transforming our energy every single thought, every single action, every single decision. We're creating this ripple effect within ourselves. And a lot of the time we're being influenced also by our environment. From the moment we enter into this reality, there's this kind of governing force which is kind of manipulating and interacting with our thoughts, creating and manifesting experiences that we have to endure, and we have to then work with. We have to ultimately understand that it's not just us as individuals who are manifesting our reality. We're also being influenced by our environment through our surroundings, and we need to understand this, because if we just understand that we are who we think we are, and we're the sole sum of our present moment, we may fall victim to the idea that we have got ourselves here. We must understand that it's not just us who got us here. It's also our environment. And although we know that ultimately, because it makes sense, in the moment when we are feeling victimized, or where we almost feel like we're the person to blame, like we are, because what happens is when we're affected, we then keep going on being this affected person, and then ultimately we feel like that person is the problem. But it's actually not. It's going back to the time where we were first influenced, we were first affected, and then understanding that energy in that moment, that time period, was effectively the innocence. That energy may have not known any better. That energy, that experience was the experience where we felt like we potentially lost that sense of self. And it can be time for every single one of us. It can be the time to actually come back and understand that it's not necessarily our fault in life that we have potentially become a representation of a false identity. We feel like something's just not true, something's not right, there's potentially no purpose, or we feel like victimized, we feel like we're not good enough. It's crucial to understand that now's not the problem. The problem has manifested into the present awareness, state of mind, consciousness. This is just the cause. The problem is not seeing the big picture. The problem is not being able to take control of the whole, and to ultimately put up our walls of ownership around the whole big picture of how we've got here and why we've got here. Because when we can take back the power of why and how, there's nowhere else to look. We've got it all. We've got the whole package, and we can start to work with that whole package. See, if we can go back and understand that we may have entered this lifetime and we may have been on the back foot from the moment we've entered this lifetime. Once we can identify this and understand that if we were able to just watch our life from an outside perspective, we would be able to see when and where and why and how we've been transformed into the person we are today. Now, that's not negative, because we must understand that nothing is negative. We only perceive negativity because we are the frequency of that existence. If we were the person looking outside of our life, it would just make sense how we have become into the person who we are today through our environment, through the manipulation, through the programming. We would simply understand, okay, it just is. There's no negativity. It literally is just an existence perceiving reality in that way because of the sum of events have calculated that frequency and that identity. And once we can kind of understand this, we can understand that the only way to transform our energy is to take ownership, the fact that everything has led us to this present moment. The awareness then, the outside awareness that is looking into our, like observing our life experience, can then start to ultimately align with itself. So what I'm talking about is we can start to align with this higher, this different perspective. It's very simple. We can start to become this different perspective. We can start to evolve from this kind of fragmented soul, and we can start to heal ourselves and become the connected soul. We can start to look at our lives as we may have been a victim in this lifetime of destruction, disconnection, but now that we can kind of see why we have ended up like this, we can start to shift our awareness into truly doing our best to heal ourselves. The only way we can really truly heal ourselves is to take ownership of everything that has happened in our lives, because once we see the big picture, the only way to truly heal ourselves is to take ownership of the big picture, and to understand that without the distortion, without the whatever past experiences that we feel that we could change, we need to change that attitude of that, because it's crucial to understand that everything has led us to this present moment. Once we can take ownership of that, and we can understand that there's nothing to change, we have the power in this moment to change. So therefore, it's irrelevant what's happened in the past. It's irrelevant what's going to happen in the future. It's all about taking ownership of this present moment and understanding that this is all we really need, is to be able to believe in the change in this moment. And therefore, I wouldn't want to change anything in the past. I don't need to change anything in the future. As long as I can change this present moment, I'm grateful for the past. I'm grateful for anything that's going to happen in the future. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant, because I can activate now. And when we do start to activate in the now moment and start to see that we have the potential to change, uplift, uprise, gain a sense of power, gain a sense of connection within this present moment, we will grow within this. And when we start to grow within this and we start to transform, we start to manifest into this being of truth, being of light, being of love, being of contentment, gratitude, we start to understand that it's a blessing. Everything in our past has been a blessing because we've been able to activate and transform into the being who we are naturally meant to be. And that is the beauty of understanding and healing, that without the past we wouldn't become the person we are today. And that is that's the truth of ultimately the cleansing of the soul, is to understand that without the pain we wouldn't see the light. Without the distortion and destruction, we wouldn't see the truth within ourselves. It's this pain, this distortion, which we've been able to use to grow into into the person who we are today. It's almost like the soil. If the soil, like, we needed to use that environment to grow as an individual, and without that environment we wouldn't be able to have the ability to grow. We wouldn't be able to become the person who we are today. Therefore, once we do grow, we look back and think, gee, that was, that lifetime, that past life, those past experiences were chaos. It could be horrible, it could be very traumatic, but without those experiences, I wouldn't become the person who I am today, and I wouldn't change that for anything. Even though it was horrible to experience, without those experiences, I wouldn't be able to be the person who I am today. And that is the key. That's the magic, is to stop victimizing ourselves and thinking, oh, we need to take ownership and use this almost trauma or negativity, sadness, to be able to transform. We ultimately use this frequency as the foundation of our lives, so we know that that is not who we are. This is ultimately just a manifestation of experiences, and we don't want to live our lives within that frequency field. And ultimately we do this by accepting this reality as and not just reality, but our some frequency of present moment, understanding what energy we are in this present moment, and ultimately looking at the big perspective, looking outside our perspective, and understanding that can't change. That's not who I am. That's just a sum of experiences, and that frequency field is my awareness within those experiences. Once we start to root down, center ourselves within ourselves, take ownership of ourselves, we can transform, we can grow, we can understand the bigger picture. We do develop choices. We can act within those choices, creating changes who we want to become. And when we start to do this, we start to truly take ownership of everything that has happened in our lives, even if we didn't have control of it, and learn to be grateful for it. Because as we start to transform, we continue to use this kind of traumatic past, or this past experiences, as food for our soul to continue to develop and grow, as a knowing that frequency is not who I am, but I'm going to use that as this ambition within ourselves to empower ourselves to be the person who we need to be, not that kind of distorted self. We want to, use that as the food for as the roots to grow above that level of energy, that awareness, which didn't want the best for ourselves. It was just kind of eating ourselves in this reality and lowering our energy. And as we grow up, we realize that those roots, that the negativity, the distortion, the manipulation, is only making us stronger, because we understand that life, that past life, or that energy field is not what I've come here to experience. And that all lives within the choice of truthfully taking ownership of our lives, and stop victimizing ourselves. As long as we play victim, we almost surrender to the forces of deceit and this low energy field of frequency. When we can take ownership of that these realms of kind of, hatred and anger, frustration, sadness, when we can take ownership of these emotions within ourselves, we can start to kind of, create this, we can protect ourselves. Because as long as we blame ourselves, we're not protecting ourselves. We're leaving our doors open to continue to be affected and manipulated, because this kind of blame is just an extension of these forces within ourselves. We just continue to manifest this energy. But when we can truly take ownership and say, you know, even if I didn't have control of my past, even if I didn't have the power to stop an experience from happening, you know, this is not my fault. It's truthfully, it's not my fault, but I'm not going to continue to victimize myself. I'm not going to continue to play this game, because I'm going to use those past experiences. I'm going to use these kind of distorting experiences that may have happened in my life to empower myself to understand that if this reality is just a dream, if this reality is almost a setup, well then I'm going to take control of this setup now. I'm going to free myself from this kind of ongoing reality and I'm going to empower and take control of the now destiny that awaits my present moment. And we all have the power to do that. It's just, we have to truly take ownership of all past experiences. We need to, understand that as long as we keep playing the victim, nothing will truly change. We will just create this continuous action, reaction, manifestation field of energy, which most likely won't uplift itself. But when we can truly take ownership and understand, no matter what's happened in my past, I am now in control of this present moment. I'm gonna heal my past. I'm gonna take ownership of all the past experiences, even the innocence that was potentially taken away from us. I'm gonna take ownership of this, in knowing that this reality may be pretty messed up, and you know, it's not fair. However, I'm not going to continue to become the manifestation of that frequency, that distorted frequency. I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to put up my walls to grow now, and I'm going to extend those walls out to every negative thing that's happened in my life. I'm going to put those walls around, and I'm going to start to heal all the negativity, everything that has happened in my life. I'm going to extend my walls all the way around, including all that negativity, all the manipulation, all the, the whatever it is, the trauma, all this distortion. I'm going to extend my walls all the way out, including all that trauma, all the negativity, all the, all the sadness. I'm going to extend it out, and I'm going to include all of that in my walls, and then I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to be the one who's going to take ownership. And then once I truly take ownership, even though, potentially it wasn't my problem. I wasn't the one who was doing that. We need to understand that without all of that, we wouldn't have the chance to become this new self. We're going to extend our walls all the way out, including all that, and we're going to start using all this manipulation, all this trauma as the fuel for us to transform and grow into this new self who's acknowledged that without that, we wouldn't have this chance to become the person who we need to be. And that's the power, is to understand that all this pain, all this sorrow, all this trauma is going to be the food for us to transform and grow into the person we are truly meant to be. And that's the magic, is when we can take ownership and we truly believe that everything was needed to happen to now become this change who we're going to shift into. this is the key to truly healing ourselves and to come back to our true potential.